But so, okay, before we get onto the creative copyrights thing, the whole AI thing subject is really interesting because it and also potentially scary for a lot of designers or creators because and any industry actually, because we just think that the robots are going to completely take over. From the little bit that you've done, that you've had an interest in, how do you see AI intertwining with car design?
Yeah, first of all, I don't think we should be afraid, and we should be afraid of the technology, nor of losing the job as car designer. The only thing is it has potential to change, and we should be aware of this potential and of this upcoming change. I think the as I wrote in the article, it will be a collaboration. It is artificial intelligence. I think it's misunderstood because I think the better word that's also used is machine learning. So artificial intelligence, you always think it's kind of like intelligence that has the potential to be like self-conscious, but that's not that's just really far away. What the better term is machine learning. So there is someone who is feeding the machine and telling the machine how the machine can actually learn by itself, like where to get inspiration, where to get the information, and how to learn. But it's very specific. So if the coder doesn't say go and find inspiration in car design, it won't do it by itself. So there is still this kind of human background to it, but there is one interesting part in machine learning. There is a point of machine learning where even the coder itself doesn't know what happened after this point. And this is the point where it gets really interesting. Like everything beneath that is like pretty predictable because it's what you told the machine to do. And then there is a point that can be, it doesn't have to be in every AI project. It can be that they hit the point where it does something where the coder says like, how come? Where does it come from? I think that's interesting. It's still, I think this is the part that will be of most value for us, for us humans, let's say, for us creatives. So there will be a point where an artificial intelligence algorithm can come up with something we haven't thought about. But we shouldn't be afraid of it. I think it's interesting. And I think the role of the car designer or the designer will still be to conduct these kind of pieces. There's some, the algorithm came up with some maybe designs, but there is still more value maybe to one design than to the other design. So you just need to take the pieces, put them together, emphasize the right bits and pieces to maybe have like a holistic design that is of value. And there is also another point. The generating design and coming up with ideas is one part of the design process, but generating the emotions that will get the customer to buy it, to like it, to love the product, that is another piece of design process. Right now, I don't think a machine can do this. We still would need like the human car designer, the human designer that would put the little bit of love into this product.
There's quite an interesting project that, again, I think that you're pretty well aware of, is this project Viscom.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just explain in your words a little bit about what that is?
Viscom, so it's a car sketching AI. It is built on on a generative neural network. Again, I'm not an expert, and they trained basically. I think how it's working is they trained algorithm to come up with a design sketch and compete against another algorithm that also comes up with a design sketch, and they should compete and come up with a better design sketch and better design sketch. So basically it takes its inspiration from a lot of design sketches on the internet. Probably there is a certain kind of source that the programmers used for this. What, if I have it in mind, it's probably about 1,000 plus sketches they took, and the algorithm just see, okay, it has to have at least two wheels. If you see it from a side sketch or from a 3/4 view, it has to have like something like a windscreen. It has to have something like a front with a grill, and then it just comes up with the design. Sometimes it looks more like a car, sometimes it looks less like a car, but it's still a good source right now, a source of inspiration, I would say. So you could look at it, you could have like your sketch generated, car sketch generated, and then see, there's maybe some interesting kind of, what is it, like a wing, or like maybe it could be something like a LiDAR that is in front, or like a grill detail or whatever.
Because I've seen this popping up on the internet. I think there was a Viscom challenge, and they basically, the images that it's producing it's not like this perfectly beautiful sketch, but and often there's like it's almost like it's like a really good designer had either taken too much acid or was drunk and decided now I feel inspired, I'm going to draw something. So the thing is, like, it's not necessarily creating this masterpiece, but it's also it is creating endless amounts of variants of something that you can just pick and say, as you said, this has got a really interesting grill shape over here with a little bit of massaging or proportion changes or whatever. There's something interesting that happened in the front there that I would never have thought about. And this is where it's quite interesting, but it's really it's like the start of where things can go, right?
It's only the start, and there's also another project from someone who I got to know during my research for this article, and he's working on car rendering AI. So basically, you have you have your line drawings, which you can, as a car designer, you just come up with this quite quickly. You just make a sketch on paper, blah, you have a line drawing. But what takes time is the rendering, and this just does it like this. It knows, it learns that probably it will have a highlight over the rear shoulder, because this is usually where you have a highlight. It would probably have a highlight somewhere in top of the nose. It will, and just getting all this kind of highlights and colors and shadows in, and it like this, And I think that's interesting, because this will, right now, designers use a lot of time for this Photoshop rendering, And although it's Photoshop now, and it used to be markers before, which was even taking longer time. Now it's Photoshop. You have your brushes, you have your colors, and it might be also easy, but I see it in everyday process that it takes time, and the amount of time and energy going into having like the perfect rendering maybe is not always as necessary to really just show the idea. So maybe there would be like a faster process, also interesting. And this AI is just like, I'm going to render your line drawing tack. And I think, as you say, it's only the beginning. If I think about AI getting really of proper use in the automotive industry, then I'm thinking of a code or a software that is fed with all these requirements. You have the engineering requirements, you have the safety regulations, you have all the regulations if it's for the European market, the Chinese market. You have even the target group. So is it like younger? Is it older? Do you want to transport stuff, or is it like a fun vehicle? You have the platform. And on top of this, the artificial intelligence algorithm is able to come up with the design, like with 3D surfaces, not a sketch, like with 3D surfaces. And I think that this would be the next level.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Also, potentially very scary thoughts as well, for obvious reasons. We talk about emotion and this. Yeah, I don't know. It will be really interesting to see how things evolve. I mean, we've also talked about it in modeling as well. Where we're kind of you sit there rebuilding a body side 25 times to get the perfect highlight, and you basically, once a kind of design has been crystallized, it then goes through a 3-year or 2-year process of just like surface refinement by a team of strike modelers, and you wonder, like, is that the thing that's really like making it beautiful, or are we just being completely stupid? Would there be, like, one day there's going to be I don't know what you want to call it, a machine learning, or a program or something that you can just you move the highlight with the slider, or like intuitively you pick something and you move the bone line out, or you push it up, and it automatically, like, mathematically corrects everything that you've done. It will be very interesting to see how things evolve. It's definitely coming in some way, shape, or form, and I have to say, it's exciting, but it's not. I would be lying if I said it wasn't scary. I'm sure a lot of people are scared of it.
I think new technology always had the kind of stigma to bring some thoughts and to the people that they might be losing their job, or their occupation might be somehow redundant in the future. But when we look back, I mean, industrial revolution, first one, we can say we are maybe in the then there was the second one with the computing, and the third, maybe we're in the third one or the fourth one, however you want to define it. It's always also an opportunity, and the period of change, I think, it might affect us because all the technology is developing so fast, but this is why we need to see it, accept it, and see how we can develop. If we ignore it, that's probably the worst thing to do, as you say. And as a modeler, if you stop, if you ignore and don't see that there is new technology coming that could partly take over your job, then you don't know how to adapt to it. You wouldn't adapt to it. And I think that's the secret. Always adapt to the changes, see that they're coming, and adapt.
Okay. So this is the next part to this is going to be quite interesting, because you've got this this project called Creative Copyrights. I've got a few questions in relation to what we've just discussed and this, but before I do that, tell everybody what that is.
Okay, Creative Copyright started as a side hustle, and is started from my side because I could see in the past years how many new designers want to get into the business, and then there is this one not so nice trick that is played on them, like a competition. Like, we're gonna have a competition. The designers sketch. They not only sketch. They maybe nowadays you need to come up with a 3D model. You need to maybe come up with a perfect rendering. You have an idea. You work on it. And what do you get for this competition? I mean, in the best case, you get like an internship. In the worst case, you just get a shout out. And I thought, I think that's not really nice for a designer, automotive designer, also modelers, to be treated like this, and there must be a way to protect themselves. And it has never been as easy with all the industry with internet for people to rip off your idea. Some people think it's an honor to be copied, but I don't think so, to be honest. I think it's not fair, especially not fair when companies do it to young designers. And this is where the idea came from. I wanted to have them to be able in a very easy way to protect their work in the sense of copyright. So it's not a patent, definitely not. It's not a technical patent. It's just to prove that you were like the first one to come up with this idea. And the good thing about this is, so the nice thing is it works not only with designs, like with something you can print out like a sketch. It works also with any 3D file, for example. It works with music files, it works with video files, so any digital file. And you can upload it and you will get a proof of existence. And this proof of existence is then saved on blockchain. So there is like a public record of your proof of existence of your design.
Okay, so that if there was ever a court case, you could that would be your proof of saying I was the first person to do X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. So if you have any troubles, and you're thinking about like, okay, this was not fair, you can say, guys, I mean, we can, even in the worst case, if you go to court, you will have a proof of you will have a proof. It's always on the judge will need to see if he wants to, accept this proof. There are already cases in China, in Europe, in France since last year that this kind of blockchain certificate is a proof in front of the court. But that's the worst case, that's the worst case.
Are you busy building a platform, or what is what is creative copyrights? How does it work?
It is a website, and
yes.
it is a website that you can access from like any desktop workstation or whatever you can access, and then you just you just drag and drop your file, whatever, JPEG, PDF, OBJ, alias, wire, whatever, and drop it. And this, in the background, there will be like a fingerprint made for your file, and this fingerprint is then deployed and saved on the blockchain, and you'll get like a blockchain transaction. You may know it from like cryptocurrency. You get like a proof of this transaction, and then you have your proof.
Okay, so my question then would be, how important do you think something like this is going to be in the future if, for argument's sake, you've got artificial intelligence coming up with a design in the first place?
I think artificial intelligence will not be seen as a legal person, right? If you go to a court, there's always like a legal person. So who is the legal person? Is it like a real person? Is it a company? Is it a dolphin? I heard like there was a case where a dolphin was really like pronounced a legal person in front of the court. So, but will it be artificial intelligence? I don't think so. Artificial intelligence will not be pronounced a legal person to be like in rights of, for example, intellectual property rights.
I mean, but that's the point. I'm saying, like, how necessary will it be to have this kind of this need for copywriting if it was artificial intelligence that came up with the design in the first place?
Will it be? I think it will be still important for the one who is then for the one who came up with the code. If you wanna, if this is the case, and as I see the artificial intelligence more as a tool, I don't think it will change much on the intellectual property side.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, it's a topic that's it's super hot at the moment with all the competitions and the sketch challenge controversy online. The previous episode that we released with Max Schneider was, he was a competition finalist a couple of times, and he won pretty well-known competition. And we were talking extensively about all the positive things that he's experienced as somebody taking part. Of course, there is the instances where these things get exploited as well. Hold on, sorry, my camera cut out. I had to restart it. We were this is an extremely popular and controversial subject at the moment with regards to companies stealing designs of students. I think it's a very expansive subject, because what's happening now is that they're also, in addition to, I'm not saying it doesn't happen where companies leverage all the students or people taking part, leveraging the ideas that have come out of this. But what's happening is that there's a lot of people that are deluded with what can and cannot be protected. Throwing down some scribbles on a piece of paper is not it's not a design. It's an idea, but an idea without execution is it's worthless. It's cheap. And I think that it's going to become more and more cheap, especially with the emergence of artificial intelligence. However, what is interesting is you were talking about, this can be applied. It can be applied to anything, from a complete volume. If you've created a digital model or a music file, for example, if a melody's been ripped off, you've then got proof of saying that I did this first, and this, and it might be it's a very small part of the big piece. I'm rambling now terribly, but I think I guess what I was trying to establish is how relevant the whole subject of copywriting will be in the future when we've got all these external sources for creativity in the form of artificial intelligence. But you've answered that, so it was a bit of a redundant question.
No, it's a good question, and also one thing that you just mentioned is there's basically this proof is just one proof that you have, and if whatever process you're going to go through, if you experience IP infringement. But I also think there is another aspect of this, just by putting it, if you enter a competition, just by putting, for example, writing it down, protected on blah blah blockchain, or whatever you want to write. So it's just kind of like labeled, like, look, I'm aware of this, I've protected it on blockchain, so just don't try in the first place. So maybe there's also like this psychological effect of this, because no one really wants, like, especially as a student, you don't wanna go to the company and sue or wanna go to court. This is really the worst case. But I think there will be maybe this one chance of also psychological little piece that you just say, okay, I have protected it.
Okay, yeah, it's a very, very small part of the whole thing. So, is it working? Is it going, or are you in the process of developing it?
We are in the process of developing it, and with programmers and the blockchain specialists. It is, the whole process sounds very easy, but as you can imagine, there is like the whole underlying programming is with deploying on blockchain is not as easy. There's also a part that we focus on is security. So we are in programming, and we're expecting with the launch in the middle of 2021. About June, July, we should go online.
So roughly 6 or 7 months away, you should have something.
Yeah.
Very interesting, Karolina. So I've got a quote that you put out on your in one of your articles saying the details make the design, especially in the limited scope of car design. What exactly do you mean by that?
So when you look at car design, and then I think the main shape, the main proportions is something. There's not much to change. It's very limited. You always have restrictions and requirements, may be the vehicle package or pedestrian protection or regulations. Like you cannot put a headlight wherever you want to. You have some scope, a height, maximum limit, like width. Yeah, it can't go to the center. There is only a limited space where you can put something that is a headlight for a car. But how you execute the headlight, this is, I think, there is so much more potential. It doesn't only have to be like this translucent plastic covered, and then you have like the bulb. You can see in the past years how much more like execution and love went into these details when you see the cars from like 10, 20 years ago. And this is what I mean. I think there's, or when you go into the interior, the knob will be a knob. You have a knob, but do you execute it with some kind of cool pattern? Do you execute it with aluminum, or is it just painted, or is it just a molded plastic? That makes a huge difference. And this is the difference that you can give also like emphasis for the details. Is it like an important part of the detail or of the design? Then I can emphasize it. Is it not that important? I just make it black mold plastic. Yeah?
There's a famous Eames quote that says, "The details are not the details; they make the product."
Exactly. That's definitely my quote is based on this quote.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Karolina, I think we've kind of wrapping up now. I've got 2 questions for you. The first question is advice. What advice would you give specifically young women starting out in this industry?
I would give specifically to women, I would give the advice, don't see yourself specifically as women. Don't see yourself like, I am the girl in car design. I am the woman here in the room. Like you are the one in the room, like you are the designer, you're the project leader, you're the detail designer. You're not the woman in the room. I think this is something you need to, or I had to learn also the hard way. Just if you make the difference for yourself in your head, everyone else will make the difference. If you don't make the difference, then it's easier for you to step up.
Very good advice. And then the second question is, what words of encouragement would you give to kids in general graduating now, when they feel like the landscape is so desolate due to Corona and the pandemic, and very little companies hiring at the moment, given that you graduated at a very similar landscape in 2009?
The piece of advice I think is, never give up, but this is probably something that everyone says. I think my piece of advice is adapt. Like adapt to the changes. Don't be afraid of the changes. Adapt to the changing economy. Adapt to the fact that it's now kind of maybe ramping a little bit down, and afterwards there's always after a dip you will always have a little bit of a ramp up again. After the rain you will have sun again, and just adapt to the situation you're in right now, and then you're able to do anything.
Okay. Karolina, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for putting up with the technical difficulties. And it was really nice to meet you and to hear about all the interesting stuff that you're doing. The whole AI subject is fascinating. I still feel like a total uneducated fool on the subject, and it's interesting to see where things can potentially go in the future. So thank you.
Sam, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. And I also wanted to tell you about your show. What I really like is when we see other car design podcasts, they would rather like to interview, like the big fish, people that already have a name in the industry. And what I like about your podcast is this: you're really giving the people from the industry a voice and putting it out there.
Thank you. I'm glad that you recognize that, because I do try that as well. There are a couple of big fish, but it's not all about them. It's also about people that are doing things on a day-to-day basis. And I have to say that even the big fish that I've interviewed have highlighted that it's not just them. That there's a team of people around around every single project and product, and the result of what you see on the road, or even if it's a product in a shop, is the result of a team of people that have done the work. So I'm glad that you see the value in it, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.